Welcome to the latest edition of the NAIA-SIDA Spotlight. Assistant Athletic Director, Sports Information Director Josh Pound at Benedictine College here in Atchison, Kansas. Happy to be joined by longtime Sports Information Director, Clarke University, formerly Briar Cliff University. As I'm looking at your bio, Hall of Famer at Briar Cliff University, and obviously an Ike Award winner as well, Jerry Hanson. Jerry, thanks for taking the time to sit down with us today and talk about your time serving as a Sports Information Director.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Well, we'll start with 38 years in the profession. What was it that got you going and got you started as a sports information director?
Well, actually, it's 42 years, Josh. This is my 42nd year and my last year. But when I got started, I didn't play any sports as a kid. I had a heart condition when I was young, so I enjoyed being around sports all the time. I started out keeping statistics in high school, basketball statistics and football statistics. So that's kind of how I got started in it. Went to broadcasting school for a year, worked in radio for a year, went back to college, and there was an opening for a full-time SID at Briar Cliff, and I applied for that, was hired for that. So that's how I got into the business.
So what's your undergrad degree in then?
Communication.
Communication,
yep.
So obviously, 42 years later, you're still doing it. What's kept you going in the business as long as you've been able to do it?
I like being in a college setting. I like being around, college athletes, college students, the interaction with that. It is, as you know, it's a lot of time. You put in a lot of nights and weekends and days, and it's just one of those things that I enjoyed. I've always enjoyed it, enjoy athletics, and so I've kept at it.
And one of the bigger things that's has become a popular topic over recent years, as far as dealing with some of the younger ones in the profession that have got into the business, is the work-life balance. How you've been doing this for as long as you have. Obviously raised a family probably during the whole process. I've got high schoolers of my own now. What's been the biggest thing that you've been able to do over the years that's been allowed you to have that work-life balance?
Well, I probably haven't done a real good job with the life and the work balance. It seems I know just the other night, my youngest son was at our house, and my wife said she doesn't know what it's going to be like, what I would be like without a laptop on my lap, because it's true. And I mean, it's frustrating sometimes. If we're going out, say we're going out to Dyersville, Iowa, outside of Dubuque here, and we have to meet some people at 6 o'clock at their house for dinner or whatever, and I'll take my laptop with me and I'll just get it out just for a few minutes to post a score or put an XML file, a box score on the website. But that has been hard. I enjoy my summers with my family, and not just my summers, but it has been hard. It's a hard thing to do because you're gone so often. I remember one time at COSIDA, there was a guy that was retiring, and he had done it for over 40 years. And he said that he retired, and then he went home, and then he found out that his wife and him had absolutely nothing in common. So that was a bad one. But you just try to make it work. You try to do the best. You go to your kids' football games, soccer games, those types of things, and you just do the best you can, and then you try to keep the college covered as well.
Well, there's probably been a number of significant changes over the years. Just in the last 5-10 years, there's been a significant amount of changes. What would you think, judging off of your experiences, what's the biggest, most significant change in your time as being an SID?
Well, I know, like when I very first started, Josh, just the photography for one thing. I mean, I would mix my own chemicals. I would take the film out of that 35 millimeter rolls. I'd roll them onto the reel, put them in the canister, develop the film, come in later in the day, and I'd cut the strips, and I would print pictures off of that. So that's how we changed with digital pictures. Social media has changed, obviously, has changed big time. It's just incredible. Another thing is the keeping of statistics have changed. We would keep them on paper, obviously, and when I first got started, I would type them up on a typewriter. I would go home at night after a game, and I'd just have a little calculator, and I would update everybody's season statistics on a calculator. I would type them up and get the whiteout out and fix the mistakes that I had made. So those things have obviously changed. Live stats. I know I mentioned to you before we went on here that I had a professor at Briar Cliff Math and Computer Science Department wrote an in-game program for me, a live stat program. And so that was great because I didn't have one. We had them at the national tournament when I worked there at the national tournament in Kansas City at Kemper Arena, but I didn't have one at Briar Cliff. So this guy wrote me one, and it was great, and he sold it to other colleges. But after I left Briar Cliff and went to Clarke, one thing I didn't realize, we played Grinnell, and Grinnell College, all they did was shoot threes, and then they would sub in, 5 in, 5 out, 5 in, 5 out. Well, this computer program had a limit of 600 entries in a game. Well, I got to 600 real fast and no stats. So that was kind of a shock to me. But just that and reporting of scores, I mean, I don't think there's as much personal contact as there used to be with SIDs and with the media. It's just an email or an email, a file or email. It's not like you call somebody up on the phone anymore and talk about, I need your roster or, you know, this or that, or can I get your probable starters? And yeah, a fax machine came out too at one time in my life because I would write game stories and then I would type them up on a typewriter. I'd drive them around town to the 3 TV stations in town, the newspapers, radio stations. And then 2 days later, I turn around and do the same thing. Well, in the fax machine, I got a fax machine that saved me a lot of time.
Right.
Yeah, there've been a lot of changes, Josh, over time. So.
Well, and recently one of the, the bigger changes for you is, Clarke University has added football, not something that they've had for your time there. What was that experience like at this point in your career to start working, a sport that maybe you haven't had that much of an opportunity to work?
Yeah, it was interesting to say the least. I thought maybe I was going to go through my career, 42 years, without having worked a football game. But that, when I was 5 years ago, we introduced football. We announced we were having football. We took about 3 years to plan it out before we started. And it was just a different thing, learning DAC stats. And I mean, I don't know how I made it through it. I had an alum that had helped me with stat programs in the past, not necessarily DAC stats in game, but you just had to learn it, and you had to learn it in a hurry. And I apologize for any mistakes I made the last couple of years. Because if you have a laptop problem, if it freezes up, or that happened one time this past year, and we just started writing things down. I mean, that's all I could do. And I apologize to the coach and the assistants. And that's been, I enjoy football. I love football. I can watch football 10 hours a day on Sundays during the football season. I think I could probably live without being up in the press box, keeping football stats. That maybe doesn't sound too good, but it's kind of cool. I mean, I like it, but it's just, I want things to be done right. And I don't like it if somebody says I had 6 tackles, not 5. What I mean? We can't watch videotapes and keep statistics off of those things.
Right.
So,
Did it change the way that you watched, other college football games in the NFL after you sat in the press box and saw it from that perspective?
Yeah, I did. I'd sit at home and watch things. I'd say, okay, what would I be doing right now? So, but I mean, I'll probably go to the home football games next year. I'm not sure, who will have my position next year, but it was something that just completely changed things in the fall for me. I mean, it's like you had to get ready for football on, for a weekend game, but yet you also had volleyball games going on and soccer games going on and golf meets going on and whatever else we had in the fall. It's like, holy moly, this is something else. So, but we made it through it.
And how do you get, everybody's different as far as what they have on campus, their resources that they use for those kind of crazier weekends. What has been your experience? And, what's been the way that you have been able to get through, crossover seasons or, a crazy day where you might have multiple events going on campus at one time?
Well, I know during football, one thing that really helped me out was our marketing department at Clarke. They did a great job in a lot of different areas, helping with marketing the week. But just having good student help, having good, reliable help has really helped me through it. I mean, that was probably my biggest fear with COVID, was losing my student workers. I like to use students who have been in our physical therapy program, because I know they're going to be here for 5 or 6 years or sometimes 7 years. And you get those guys trained to be a soccer statistician or an in-game, a basketball operator. And you have those young students for 6 years sometimes, and that's been great. I did lose some good workers last year, so COVID has just kind of made me a little more anxious, a little more nervous. The fear of losing kids to illness and not having them on game day to run laptops and things like that. So,
Well, I guess we'd be remiss if we didn't discuss that. Coming from the Heart of America Athletic Conference like myself, we did manage to get uh, a lot of stuff in this fall where other conferences maybe decided to push everything to the second semester. How do you feel like your campus and your coaches and stuff dealt with all the unknowns going into the semester in the fall with COVID?
I think everyone really in the conference did well at getting through this. I mean, there was just maybe a lot of more anxiety, more nervousness about what's going to happen, the not knowing. I know I like this book, Who Moved My Cheese? I kind of like things to be set in stone, and here's what we're doing, and here's what's going to happen, and then all of a sudden, boom, you don't know what's going to happen. There's just so many unknowns about what's going to happen next week or whatever with schedule changes. And but I think all in all, I mean, I think the whole conference has done a great job of getting through this.
Well, it sounds like you're a little bit like me. It took me, we probably had 3 or 4 events at home before I finally realized I could start maybe looking beyond the next day. Was that kind of the same philosophy that you took? Obviously, we're in a business where we do plan 10 days out, 2 weeks out, and to not be able to do that, that's where my anxiety came from.
Yeah, that's affected me as well, Josh. And I think the fact that I'm wrapping up my career and knowing that I'm going to be done in about 12 weeks and or something like that, 12 or 14 weeks, and having volleyball matches possibly in the spring and having soccer matches in the spring, and in my situation, just about done. I'm thinking, okay, I kind of wish this would have been done last fall, but it wasn't. So we deal with it. I mean, we just keep going, and you just need to look ahead, and you need to plan ahead and make sure you have your ducks in a row to get through it.
If you were to give a couple pieces of advice to somebody that's thinking about getting into the business or has just kind of gotten into the business in the last couple of years, what would that be?
I think they should try to learn a little bit about as many things as they can. I know when I worked at a TV station when I was in high school and college in Sioux City, I had a supervisor that told me that I would be, that I should learn as much about that business as I could. A lot of all the areas I should learn a little bit, not necessarily just focus on one thing to be good at this, but to learn a little bit about a lot of things so you'd be more well-rounded. But I think that would be true for anybody getting into this business, whether it be your writing or your photography, your knowledge of social media things, and design, Photoshop. Just learn about all of those things because you're going to have to do it by yourself more than likely. So.
Well, you mentioned you're weeks away, and I know we've talked about it in different meetings over the years that this decision didn't come easy, and and it's kind of been something that's been on your mind for a few years now. And so now that you're close to it, what do you think your post sports information director life is going to look like?
Well, we have some more grandkids now than we used to, and we have another one on the way here, I think, in July. So I'll be spending time with them, getting a few more babysitting gigs on weekends, I'm sure. But we have we go to a cabin of ours in northern Minnesota. It's up on the Canadian border, gorgeous national park, and we go up to the cabin, and I like to hop out on the lake in the pontoon boat and go around. And I'm not a big fisherman. My dad would take me all the time, and I think those fish are doing fine at the bottom of the lake without me. I just get out and enjoy the wilderness. So that's probably what I'll do. I've had some great memories of my career, and worked with some great people and some great coaches. I think one of the neatest things that happened over the years was at 1992 at Briar Cliff when we had a thing at Briar Cliff called the Panama Pipeline. When I was there, we had 4 players drafted in the NBA draft. The draft was different back then. They had rounds up to 10 rounds, and we had a 3rd round draft pick by Boston, and 5th round, and 8th and 10th, I believe. But in 1992, the Olympic qualifying games, the United States Dream Team played Panama, and most of the players on Panama's team, the starters, were former Briar Cliff athletes. They played against Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, Charles Barkley, Scottie Pippen. It was just an outstanding, unbelievable experience to see those guys, play against those players. And it happened in '79 and in the Pan Am Games with Panama played Bobby Knight coach team, and the United States beat Panama by 5 points. And again, it was pretty much a Briar Cliff basketball team. Sports Illustrated came out to Sioux City and did a story on our player that led the country in scoring. So, there's just a lot of stories over 42 years, but that's probably one of the bigger ones. I mean, it was a neat experience to work with those players.
Well, maybe you could launch a blog or I guess it's not blog, they don't do those anymore, but a podcast with fireside chats of just telling your stories from over the years. Those would probably be very interesting to listen to, and just kind of I can't imagine being in this business this long and the number of stories that you have to tell.
Yeah, and we used to travel with the teams, and I used to travel with the teams, and I keep play-by-plays on a legal pad, and I'd get in a phone booth somewhere on a rotary dial phone, and what do they call them? Calling the box score. It's just times have changed, and I guess you want to make sure you have all your statisticians in your car when you leave the University of South Dakota. I left a worker there one time, a young lady, drove back to Sioux City from the University of South Dakota and forgot one of my statisticians. I thought she was, lined up with another ride, but found out from her dad later that she wasn't. She wasn't. So she was in Vermilion. But no, I had a great life, great career, Josh, and you can't do something forever. And yeah, it's going to be really weird. Yeah, June 1st. Of course it's summertime, but just in the fall, not having to go to a game or getting to go to a game, I could put it that way too. Just all the things that we're involved in. And I admire you guys. I know I call you young guys, and I know you're not young, but there aren't many people that, and you mentioned it too, that are in it for this long or have stayed that long. There's kind of a higher turnover rate in this position, I think, in this profession. So, but I admire you guys. I mean, the conference SIDs in the heart are outstanding. It would be neat if I would have had those things around in 1979, but they weren't.
Right.
So,
well, Jerry, I thank you for taking the time this morning. I know that it's a busy time of year, in a normal year, and then when you add in, like you said, we've got some fall sports they're going to be playing here soon again. After our conference postponed our postseasons to the second semester, so everybody's got to get a tune-up for the conference tournaments. So thanks for taking the time. Stay warm. Hopefully you guys, if you guys start thawing out, that means we get to start thawing out down here in the lower Midwest. So again, Jerry, thank you for taking the time.
Yep, thank you, Josh. Appreciate it.